You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
This is the Marvel Tribe, brought to you by Walt's Apartment Podcast and the DisInsider.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special remix episode of the Marvel Tribe. Here on this episode, I kind of like my voice all raspy this way. For those of you who know, I'm a little sick under the weather, but we are recording because we love you guys. So I am joined by my amazing co-hosts. We have Sam, the podcast princess. How are you doing, Sam, this lovely weekend?
I'm good. It's snowing here. So we're getting some snow for the new year. But definitely ready to wrap this show up.
I heard a rumor. You don't have to confirm or deny it, but I think you should confirm it. I heard someone told me you were rocking some apple bottom jeans and the boots and the fur. Is that true?
We'll just say it's true for entertainment purposes. Sure.
Well, there you have it. Sam's bringing back early 2000 style. And then our other amazing co-host here, makes up the trio of the dynamic trio for Marvel Tribe, is Skip to my Lou, Mr. Lou Knight. I'm not even going to say the Lou Universal fanboy, but I guess I just did say that. How are you doing this weekend, Lou?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling good. Ready for the new year. So are we going to change like Sam's name? You know how it was like Flo Rida? Is she like I Deanna, or like is that gonna be her new name? I Deanna,
DM Slider.
Please don't.
Yeah. So I Deanna.
That might open up a whole floodgate of new fans for.
Please don't. We no. So the reason that we're all assembled together today is to give our final recaps for episode 8 of What If Season 2, Episode 9 of Season 2, and then to kind of talk about our overall thoughts of the season and our live show that we're going to do next week to kind of cap everything up. So, Episode 8, trying to remember the exact title of the episode. So it was What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602.
Ooh.
What were our ratings for that episode, David?
All right, so for the 1602, which is episode 8, I gave that a near perfect score. It has a 9, but I'll explain why I didn't give it full 10. But I loved it. It's based off of the comic run that was done in the earlier 2000s called 1602. So, yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 10. I thought they did really good they did a really good job of kind of blending the 21st century and 1602, because as you guys understand, the timeline has now started to converge and they're pulling characters from the future into the past world and stuff. And there was a character that kind of he's like the main person that started this whole incursion, which we'll talk about later and stuff too. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it was for me. I gave it a 10. It had all of the elements of what I would be looking for if they were going to bring 1602 from the comics into the cinematic universe. This is what I wanted it to look like. It was done really, really well, I thought. Lou, what did you think? Rating?
I gave it a 9. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 9. I enjoyed it. And not only that, I enjoyed the ending. I know we're going to break it down piece by piece, but I got my closure. Peggy Carter's one kryptonite is Steve Rogers, which just solidifies that theory. And you see it these last two episodes. These last two episodes, she couldn't even kill him. He had to hit the posterizer himself to do it. So,
but we'll talk about it when we get to episode 9. She said, "I would not do this for Steve."
Yes, thank you.
But she may say that, but she just showed it in episode after episode. So we could say that she says that, but she couldn't even kill him. He had to hit Iron Man's posterizer himself because she wasn't going to do it. So if that doesn't say you can't do it, I don't know what else does.
Yeah, but
he had to vaporize himself.
Okay. I am going to say, though, that the Peggy Carter that we got with Steve in episode 8 and episode 9 was not the Peggy Carter that we got with Steve earlier in the season.
Yes.
But how do you say that? I mean, she's
no. I'm saying it's the same character, but I'm saying that they brought her integrity back as a character. She had her wits about her.
She was no longer a dumb like she was. I'm saying like she was in that previous episode. Even though yes, no one disputes the fact that she is madly in love with Steve. She's grieving the previous Steves. It brings up stuff every time we see her and any version of Steve interacts, but she still maintains that Peggy Carter, her mind is still skillful, everything else and stuff. We didn't get that. We got a dumb teenage girl in love in that previous episode.
Louis, do you see the difference between how she
be in love with somebody?
It was literally like a dumb lovesick puppy, and then it was like she had her wits about her. She had her integrity as a character.
I kind of see that, but I also see episode 1 of Peggy Carter, season 1. She didn't see Steve Rogers. The episode she sees him and realizes that's who she's going up against. That's the soft spot. And then I see episode 8 and 9 where her realizing the mission can't be compromised because I'm in love. So I don't disagree with that. We did get more integrity, but I see her. She started her mission. She had her downside of being in love with Steve Rogers. And then in 8 and 9, she's like, I still can't kill you, but the mission has to go on. And henceforth, Captain Rogers or Steve Rogers said, you're right. And I will vaporize myself because I know the mission has to continue and you can't do this. Mm-hmm. And that's why he had to go in and terminate himself. I'm not saying that Peggy Carter lost the integrity in the episode that we disagreed on. But at the same time, we can't say that wasn't her because this is the first time seeing someone that she thought she was dead and gone. So I think we had the perfect circle for her. But in all else fails, I think these last 2 episodes justified that episode that she did fall apart and realize why she didn't go back.
It did give her redemption.
They gave her redemption, but you need to do something to have redemption. And I don't think she sucked. I think it was all justified with these 2 episodes.
I'm glad you acknowledged that the last 2 episodes was more true to Peggy Carter's form, and she fell apart in that first one. That
100%.
So, and that was my whole point because it was the only thing that wasn't consistent with her was the way she was behaving in that episode. How she was behaving in these 2, regardless of how much in love she is. We all acknowledge that they are Romeo and Juliet tied together, but she's also who she is. If Juliet was a badass, fighting girl about her wits and everything else and stuff, she still will be that persona. That's her character. It just would be her character in love. And so her behavior in the first one was out of character, I guess is the best way I can put it.
And like now that we have the full picture, now that we see her in 8 and 9, that allows me to go back and give her more grace during that. But when you just get that earlier episode in solitude and you don't know you're getting 8 and 9, that's where I was like, the fuck is this shit? Like, that was kind of like the reaction to it.
And for me, with this episode for 8, I didn't like that they brought Hela in the costume that she was wearing. I was like, you should have kept with the white. It would have made so much more sense on her being sucked up and she's doing good. I mean, I wish that, small flaw. Not that she was bad. Obviously, we saw that she wasn't bad in that brief little spot. But I really wish they would have kept her in her white outfit so we're like, oh, this is that Hela. because now Odin's not there, and it would have made sense for her to
let's
be.
hope
We don't
that
know when they plucked her, when she got plucked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's what I was going to get at. But also, I am glad we didn't get that one, the light Hela, because that would have meant that she's not as powerful in light as we thought, that she was easily collected. So, like, he was still trying to collect Kahori. He had not collected Kahori yet, but he was trying. So, like, that was like a recent thing, right? So, if she was collected that easily in that transformation, I would have been like, what? Really? Like, he's got her already. That just happened. Because in our brains, that just happened. Even though, of course, we don't know when in time or space that happened. But then we also had like
he collected. Are we assuming that the green thing was strange?
The green
you said
thing.
The cut in the time.
In episode 9. No. I'm talking about episode 9. No.
Well, see, I was talking about episode 8 when she gets sucked up and Thor's all my queen, and they take his sister. I wish in that brief little scene she was wearing white because for her to be on the throne and everyone looking up to her in the black outfit doesn't make sense.
Well, she was a cosmic being, so so for me here's the thing. For me it kind of, I really wish Marvel did a really good job about explaining it, because now we got multiverses and then different timelines and everything else and stuff, and we don't know at what point. All we can know for a fact is she was pulled into 1602 before she became the goddess of light. That's it, because we see her.
That's fair.
That's all we really know. If they would have pulled her into the goddess of light, I'll be honest, as a person who, from a writer perspective, that's a hard write, because she's a cosmic Omega level being at that point and stuff. And so I think this wouldn't have played out. She would have overshadowed all the characters, and we would have had more questions like, what the hell with the goddess of light? We see the white version of her. Like, the rest of the storyline doesn't make any sense. You have like the most powerful. So I think plucking her from the timeline before that transformation happens was actually a good idea.
Because that was my only takeaway from that episode, that I was like, because everything else, even the way that, even Barney Hulk, was played in well. Personally,
Hulk Hogan now.
Hulk Hogan. For me, the plot twist of Rogers being the Drifter, I think they called it, caught me off guard. I thought Happy Hogan was the Drifter, because how everybody kept not negative, but it was like he was like wanting power at some points, and then he was like, no, we just need to do this for good. Like his character, for me, that whole episode was in a roller coaster.
Struggle to me.
Yeah, like I was really trying to figure him out. So when I found out that it's a person or a being, I was like, is it Hogan? Like, and I'm glad it wasn't, because if it was and he was still Purple Hulk, I would have been like, okay, we're giving this man way too much credit right now. And that is just so, especially with the Hulk being, I loved, not to bounce around, but the way the Hulk was like, don't bother me, it's peaceful in here. And wearing like a Mark I knockoff helmet, I was like, oh, what's about to happen? And I really liked the Hulk.
She's like, I'm sorry about this, Bruce. I was like, oh.
I love the Hulk's intro into this episode. That was probably my second favorite intro, besides Tony Stark being just some kind of like Orlando Bloom in Pirates of the Caribbean, just some blacksmith in 1602. Like Iron Man and Hulk, for their intro into this show, was probably my favorite.
Well, I love the nods that they were given to like that period pieces and stuff. Like, we got, let's start with Hulk. Hulk was the man in the Iron Mask, right? Who was locked away in the dungeon and stuff, and he was actually happy with that. We had, Captain Rogers was Robin Hood, him and his merry man robbing
Rogers Hood.
Yeah, Rogers Hood. We got Macbeth, and we got Shakespeare. We got Queen Hela and her brother Thor. So we got some Shakespearean vibes and stuff there.
We got the Romeo and Juliet a little bit.
Yeah.
Loki as like the Joker. That worked perfect.
And the Scarlet Witch being like the King's Witch, like the King's magician.
Yeah, Camelot and stuff. And
Samuel Jackson being like the knight. Like, there was so many. The one that really nailed it for me was is Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd, we need a thief. Well, where do we have that? And it's Paul Rudd. I was like, that's so great.
Oh, it's
And I loved the scene too where Nick Fury knows that she's out the window, and so he's talking to her and like, who are you talking to over there? Oh, just a pretty little birdie.
Yep.
Loved that. So just an overall for anybody who's listening to our recap who did not see the episode yet, go watch it. Amazing. So we're talking about episode 8 first.
Yes.
And it is set in 1602, and there is a tear between the timelines, the 21st century and this timeline. The timelines are stuck together like gum, and we get a breakdown where the fourth wall gets broken down, and Captain Carter gets to talk directly to the Watcher. I actually loved that. I think if you're going to break down the fourth wall, like, he needs more interaction than just narrating, and her playing with him. Like, what are you just going to narrate?
Agreed.
I thought that was great. So
I don't mean to cut you off with that, but with the Watcher, that something popped up on Facebook on one of those I'm a Marvel fan.com pages where it's like, you don't want to believe it, but it was a good theory about, remember in Iron Man 3 when we got the actor that was supposed to be the 10 rings of power and stuff like that, and he was just an actor. Someone put a fan theory of using that same. I wish I had a screenshot of it because it was really, some of the things were very left and right. I was like, I don't get it. But what if Marvel introduces the Watcher into the MCU as like the new baddie? Like, hey, like the person playing Kang was like a puppet, and now you've made me mad because you guys have disassembled him. Not to go down there, that's a whole different episode. But I saw this and I was like, they're asking the plot of the story was, why don't they introduce the Watcher as the villain? Because he's always been there, but never's been there. And I was like, that'd be an interesting villain to play along with, especially now that what if and the timelines. I feel like that's a way to really bottleneck all the timelines and say, this is really why it's going.
I can answer that question.
The integrity of the comic books.
Well, not only that, I can answer that because reading the comic books, I can tell you right now, and anyone who actually read the comic books, the Watcher could just end any timeline he chooses and stuff. I mean, he doesn't have to fight anybody. He can just shatter it from the introverse that where he rounds and he watches everything and stuff. I mean, he is an omnipotent being and stuff. And yes, granted, we watch him kind of do some battle with the Supreme Ultron and stuff. But the truth is, the Watcher and the Watchers as a whole and stuff can literally in the timeline, they can shatter the entire. It wouldn't be a very good story.
Well, no, I get that part, and that's why I said there's a bunch of left and rights to it. But what got me, and again, trying to keep it what if focused, is the abrupt change that Marvel may be having to take. The Watcher seems like the perfect candidate to really bring in on an already established multiverse saga. Not saying that it makes sense comic book wise, but Marvel having to make this abrupt left.
They could do it, but there are going to be some pissed off people if they do it.
There would be. I mean.
Here's the other piece. I mean, so, okay, let me say this. So the Watcher that we see in the What If series is already a villain anyway, in the fact that he's not doing what his people are doing. So if he were to take it even further than what he is, the other Watchers would definitely destroy him. It would be like that. And he would, I mean, a Watcher versus a Watcher, the council and stuff doesn't stand a chance. They will just banish them and destroy them, and it'll be over like that. There's a continuity to that position and those beings and how they exist and stuff. So him interfering is already making him kind of a villain to his own people, but he's not so far out of bounds. Like, he's stepping over the line, but he'll tip his toe over and come back. But if he went full board, I'm going to, whatever his motivation is to just, take over a timeline or a multiverse, the other Watchers would come in quickly and destroy him, because that's their job. That's what they kind of do. They're kind of like the background storytellers and stuff like that. I get what you're saying, but it would piss off, I guarantee you, piss off a lot of comic book reader. Like, they completely were flipping a complete script, and not only that, you're flipping. It would be like if
I get what you're saying. I was just when I read it. I mean, there was even other things like the Watcher bringing in. I mean, you go Galactus and stuff like that. It's like, all right, you're going too far. But the core of it was like bringing in the Watcher as the the villain that's been there, but we haven't seen yet kind of thing. And I was like, that's interesting, especially the abrupt turn that Marvel has to take. But at the same time, I hear what you're saying. Like, I think it would ruin the integrity of What If. And I think it would do more than just fan service of bringing. I mean, we obviously got Captain Carter in What If, from What If in the MCU. Yeah. We got Doctor Strange, the zombie Strange, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Actually, we got both of those in the same film. So, and I like the little subtle inputs, but I think bringing the Watcher would be a little too much. But I didn't think it was a bad idea, given the fact that we have this spider web of multiverse going on. And how can we not cap it off, but how can we pipeline it to where now it makes more sense in the bigger picture? But I do see what you're saying.
In a similar vein to what that commenter wanted to do, I would actually bring about the Beyonder. The Beyonder is not the level of the Watcher, but the Beyonder is absolutely a multidimensional being and stuff. We actually may even see the Beyonder if they needed to adopt and replace King the Conqueror and stuff. That would be the perfect casting to do so, because they have a tie, both him and King and the Beyonder. But that would be the one I would actually make more of a multiversal. He's an instant multiversal threat and stuff. And he can do exactly what that commenter wanted to see the Watcher kind of do. So, but yeah, it'd be so far out of bounds and stuff to make a Watcher evil like that and stuff and interfere. Like, they would literally.
Well, it would hurt my soul.
I think it's also coming. I mean, I forgot the page name, but it was like I Love Marvel or something. But given that nature, it's probably some MCU that's just watched the MCUs and that's it. So I'm gonna try to find it wherever I saw it, and if I find it, I'm gonna screenshot it so you can read the full depth of what they were saying.
And I'm not gonna lie, I do like people's take who are strictly MCU fans that aren't comic book fans, and I do have to pull myself back sometimes and just say, okay, we're in a world where the comic books don't really exist, that the comic books are just informing and
you shut your mouth. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the comic books are kind of almost like a muse to the MCU. I mean, the truth is we know from the start when we got introduced to Hela is Loki's daughter in the comic books. I mean, that's a whole other storyline that they remixed and switched out. I'm actually kind of glad that they did it that way and stuff too. Made them the siblings versus a father-daughter dynamic and stuff, because that wouldn't have fit in the MCU. So I like the MCU is kind of this separate universe from the comics. And we get remixing and retelling of a different character, but there has to be some kind of continuity for the storytelling when you introduce certain characters. Like, you can't make Hulk the most ultimate war fighting machine ever, because I mean, honestly, if they put Hulk in Civil War, it ruins Civil War. You know who wins? Whatever side Hulk's on.
Yep.
He smashes everybody. I mean, that's just how that works and stuff. I mean, so remixing these characters and stuff a little bit, and just kind of so you can tell a better congruent story. I like that. And then seeing people who are only fans of the MCU give their takes and input I love that. So
yeah, and so they really are two different worlds, and it's nice having perspectives of both sides, because we have to remember that the MCU is not going to always stay traditional to the comics. We just saw the introduction of Kahori, who it was not in the comic books. And like David and I, we'll sit and talk comic books all day, but absolutely loved Kahori, loved her. And I am like, give me comic books. They're not written yet. Please write them for me. Give me them. Give me a TV show. Give me a full-length film. I want those things. So it's nice to be able to play both sides for sure. So we see that Captain Carter we saw her get sucked into this timeline by the Scarlet Witch, and
it looks like she's being built. She got brought in by Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
And she's there to help fix the timeline because there's someone else there that shouldn't be there. And she works with this timeline's version of Tony Stark to invent something that will help identify who that person is. But she needs to get Hela's scepter from Thor, who is now the king. And so we get these really cool battle scenes, and we get to see a very Robin Hood-esque fighting. I loved watching. And this is when it clued into me that this version of Roger's Hood may not be who it was, or may have been who they were looking for this entire time, this being, because the cap play with the sword, or not the sword, with the shields between her and Rogers, like that. I was like, just because you're Roger's Hood doesn't mean that you're going to know how to wield that shield.
Correct.
So I was like, this guy came from a different timeline. This guy. So that was what clued me into it. Might have been him. And because I knew they have to break each other's hearts in every single timeline. So that was about when I figured it out, was when I saw the shield play going back and forth when they were fighting the King's merry men. But yeah, great episode. We do see that it is him, and he ends up basically getting rid of himself by pushing his hand into her hand to ignite whatever reaction's supposed to happen to send him back to where he's supposed to be and close the tear in the timelines. And he remembers being like fighting Thanos, and he had the Infinity Stone, and that was what happened, right?
Yeah, so he virtually had to as the TVA say, had to purge himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had to take himself out to separate the two timelines from, or unsticking.
Prune.
Like
He had to prune himself.
Gum.
So he pruned himself because she said, "I can't lose you again," and he's like, "You have to. We have to do the right thing," and just gently touched her little hand, and that was the end. And then I was like, "Oh, I'm sad again." But I wondered if she was going to like do what she had to do. No, she couldn't do it. She could not do it. So great episode, absolutely phenomenal episode. There was not for me. There was nothing that it really left lacking. So, what about you guys? What would you have liked to see differently in that episode?
I think so. Here's my take on it. I think she would have, just to kind of, I'll start backwards from where she didn't do it. I think we saw a moment that, like how we saw with Wanda and Vision at the end of Infinity War, where it was all about the timing and stuff. Like, and Wanda refused to exterminate Vision until it really kind of came down to she had no choice but to do that. I think if we had more time and this incursion wasn't really about to just end everything right then and there, she probably would have made the right choice. But Roger didn't give her that chance, and didn't give her that guilt and that grief to do that and stuff. So he did it. He did what Rogers would have done, took it up on himself to be the hero. Like that's kind of how he is. But I think she would have, if the time allowed it for that to happen and stuff. Just like with that's what I saw. I saw the Wanda and Vision when she had to destroy his stone and stuff, and there's that long kind of period of hesitation. She refused to do it, and then until she ultimately knew she had no choice but to do that. So I love the fact that she became a villain, not only to Captain Carter, to the world, that having to figure out and solve that, but when Thor got ignited, dumb Thor. And I don't say dumb, but it's kind of true. He's very short-sighted, and he doesn't see the big picture of things. And the great contrast with that is, like, you have his main council advisor, Nick Fury, and his wizard, the Scarlet Witch and stuff, running counter and opposition ops to King Thor, because he's so like, oh my, you're here to protect the Queen. you failed to do that. She got gobbled up. Now you're my enemy and stuff. Versus, hey, help us all out. Like, we are all in jeopardy here, and we believe that you're still the only person that can solve this. So I love seeing that because it still kind of show true to Thor's roots and his mentality and stuff. He has a lot.
Thor's weakness is also his family, though, too.
True.
Like,
yes,
he sees blood when it comes to his family.
100%. So it justifies why he doesn't think straight in that instance and stuff. He just watched his sister just evaporate and stuff. So, but I loved it. Hogan's Hulk Hogan, Happy Hogan's. His character was really good. He was battling his own inner demons of rage.
Watch my feather.
Yeah. So he held on tight to some very inanimate objects and stuff. And that was his role. So he was battling like roid rage, internal struggles. He was trying to be relevant. It was I loved it. He had his own side quests going on in this whole story and stuff.
And his side quests were all internal.
Yeah, all internal.
Which is true to being a Hulk, man.
Yep.
True to being a Hulk. I think he did a great job in that role as well. And I will forever call him Hulk Hogan.
Yes. Hulk Hogan.
For sure. So, Louis, what would you have liked to see differently in this episode?
In this episode, nothing, but knowing what episode 9 was, I would have rather this episode been a cliffhanger and we get a little bit more of that 1602 vibe. Obviously, like we were sharing before that we went live, was there are some characters missing from the storyline. So I would like to have seen a cliffhanger of this one and continue this 1602, because obviously a lot of these episodes have been coming to this moment. So I would like them to see this be a continuation in the season finale versus what we got in episode 9. But obviously it's hard to wish that when you know what episode 9 is. Yeah. So, but me, I just wanted more. This one was very much like the Kahori episode where it's like, I want you to slow down, give me more, really develop these characters. But I was left wanting more, which I guess is obviously a good thing for a TV show. So it's like, I'm hoping we revisit 1602 if and when season 3 comes.
I mean, you could do what I'm about to do when we're done recording here. I'm heading to the comic book shop to look for some 1602 comics.
It's a great run.
Well, my closest comic book shop is hours away.
Maybe if I find duplicates, I'll send you some.
So even though Marvel has yet to sponsor our show, for all those comic book heads like Lou, who isn't near a comic book shop, you can always go and become a subscriber at marvel.com. Because when you do that and your membership there, you can actually read a lot of the comic books, all their scans online not for free. They'll give you some for free, but there's a lot of content at marvel.com, and you can subscribe and get in. If you become a subscriber, you get all access to all of their comics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. So that was a free plug, Marvel. You owe us.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Then I might be doing that after the show and not driving a couple hours.
Well, also support local comic book. If you have the ability to do so, support your local comic book shops and stuff. So,
for sure. For me, there's nothing like a comic book in print.
No.
There are sometimes when you like what?
I'm a sucker for omnibus. The all the comics in one hardcover. I'm a sucker for those.
So I have a couple of those, and I was literally just about to talk about that. Like if there's a superhero or an anti-hero, like just a run that you like, you can get them all like compiled into one. Like I have like the entire Submariner collection like that, but I still go buy the individuals as well. It's just
absolutely.
But yeah, definitely support your local comic book shops because and honestly, like just go spend a day and dig, and you have no idea like the good shit you can find in comic book shops. It's a good way to spend a day and just let your inner geek flag fly. All right, so we loved episode 8.
Can I say one more thing? So,
of course,
the only reason why I didn't rank this a perfect 10 out of 10, was simply because I was spoiled by getting to read the 1602 run, and I thought this would have been a perfect episode to bring and introduce the X-Men to bring and introduce some of those Fox properties, Fantastic Four, into the 1602 run. There's really no reason not to. Lou pointed out earlier before we got on that Marvel owned these properties before they even written this episode and stuff. And and we understand that these are not directly informing of the MCU. So if that's the case, you're playing fair rules. Introduce X-Men.
And they could have, you had super powered people all over this episode. You had half the knights were super powered. Robin Hood's men were all super powered. You could have done that easily and done cameos.
You're going to give us Professor X and the Beast, but you're not going to play with that even more in the What If series? Come on. So that's the only reason why. Other than that, it would have been a 10 out of 10 for me.
And you know what? They could have done the same thing in episode 9.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
So you guys ready to talk about episode 9?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So episode 9. I like to use the exact name of the episode. What if Strange Supreme intervened? So we got in episode 8, we got the Watcher saying we don't intervene. We don't know what could happen to timelines, blah, blah, blah. And I can't see what always is going to happen next if you do intervene. And then episode 9, we see that Strange Supreme has grabbed Captain Carter and said, I need your help. We saw that at the end of episode 8. I need your help. One of his collections got away. We come to find out that collection piece that's got away is Kahori. He is trying to collect timeline heroes and timeline killers so that he can feed them to the Forge, so that he can bring back his reality, his timeline where Christine has died. And so he is so overcome by grief that he's got a grief monster in him, and he is going to sacrifice all of these beings so that he can recreate his timeline. He can bring his timeline back to life. And so we see Captain Carter get dropped in where Kahori is. We see a quick little battle scene, and very quickly Kahori is able to convince her, I'm not the bad guy here. He is. So he grabs them both, takes them back to his fortress, and then he's trying to basically kill Kahori, or take her power so that she cannot fight back against him, so he can feed her to the Forge. And Captain Carter's like, nope, we're not doing this. And he's like, well, you would do this for Steve. And she's like, no, I would not do this for Steve, and Steve would not want me to do this for him, just like Christine would not want for him to do this for her. And we get to see some of the timeline killers and timeline heroes that he is collecting, and holy hell, what a collection. Mm-hmm. But what were your rankings on this episode?
So
Blue Knight, sorry, go ahead, David.
No, I was going to start with the ranking. I gave this a 7, and I only gave it a 7 simply because of what you said about Doctor Strange wanting to get Christina back. I thought we dealt with this bullshit. He trapped himself because he was on the verge of just collapsing the entire universe because of all of the, he was out getting all of the dark magic and everything else to make himself this supreme sorcerer. And then he realized that no matter what, she's a Nexus event. Her death has to happen in the timeline where he exists and stuff, how he does. So he couldn't do that. Even if he found timelines where she lived, she ends up destroying it. So he punished himself by trapping him. I thought we dealt
and then by trapping himself, he caused this grief instead of surrounding himself by people that would have helped support him through that. Other people who were also grieving. Other people were also grieving. Putting yourself in isolation when you're grieving is not always the answer.
Get over. I get it. You're right. Yes. He didn't deal with his grief, but he punished him. I mean, literally, I'm sorry, if I'm imprisoning myself and then I get broken out to help the multiverse Avengers, to save everything against Ultron and everything, it doesn't explain why he sunk back into this grief. I thought he healed and he was surrounded by a bigger purpose and stuff to protect the multiverse and be part of the Watcher's right hand. I don't know. I gave it a 7.
I get that too. Lou, you go ahead. What'd you give it?
So I gave it a 7 as well.
Insane.
Well, one, I didn't see the view David saw, but I don't disagree with that. I mean, I agree 100%. But also too, the title of it was very misleading. What if Doctor Strange intervened, or what did he say? Yeah, intervened, right?
Sorcerer Supreme.
Sorcerer Supreme intervened. I mean, what did he intervene? I mean, he didn't intervene nothing.
He intervened in a timeline. He was trying to intervene in the timelines to bring the timeline back. So that's why that Watcher was having that conversation. Yeah,
that's a stretch.
So for me, I also gave it a 7 because the episode was incredibly distracting.
Jinx.
There was way too much going on.
My main reason for a 7 though is they ruined Kahori for me. Why did they give her dialect? And don't give me that BS card that Captain Carter couldn't understand her.
No, she can understand. Okay, they solved that. So her power base, she can speak all the language. Like she spoke to the Spanish Queen in Spanish, right? Just like that, fluently and stuff. But then
the whole episode they kept throwing in mild dialect pieces.
Yeah, I don't know, because that's who she is and stuff.
That was, I felt like that was, you just built a beautiful episode and you're going to come in with that nonsense. That killed it for me. I was like, it pulled me out of her character. She just became an average Marvel character. And I was like, the thing I fell in love with that character was that uniqueness to her. Kind of like how, and I'm going to go back to Namor in Wakanda, how we saw him speak more of his fluent language or his, I don't know, the language, dialect throughout more of the movie than we did with him not seeing. I get doing some to talk to Captain Carter, but if your natural language, when you say things, like for instance, people that speak Spanish, if they're speaking English but they stub their toe, something comes out Spanish because it's a quick response. Like that's just my natural dialect. And I felt like Kahori was so fluent in English that it's like, no, don't do that.
There were definitely some times when she went to call him something, she didn't have the word for it in English, and so she called him whatever they would have called it in her time.
Not only that, I mean, it was just, there was no, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, she spoke first. So how do you even know Captain Carter spoke?
She's wearing a Union Jack. It's probably not hard to associate a British colonizer that they speak English and stuff. I mean, so yeah, I mean, for me, that's just deduction and stuff. Like, oh, okay, you probably speak English because of your outfit that you're wearing and stuff.
Yeah, that took me out of for her. Really put her more on a subpar level.
See, for me, I feel like if we would have had all the extra dialect going on, it would have, because this episode was already all over the place for me, and I was like trying to read subtitles, like what the hell is happening here? Mm-hmm. I love hearing Kahori speak her language. Mm-hmm. In this episode, though, there's just way too much going on for me. Mm-hmm. Like my ADHD was like ping, 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 ping. So like for me, that did not take me out of it. However, getting so many iterations of different characters from different what if timelines, my head was I was spinning.
Yeah, I'm saying. And I do also say, I think the writers personally hate Thanos because they do him so dirty in these what if, these episodes that they write and stuff. I mean, Kahori just simply dusted his ass out of the suit and just no.
No, it wasn't Kahori. It was Killmonger.
It wasn't Kahori. It was Killmonger. So Killmonger killed Thanos. Just took him, did the snap before Thanos can do it, and then Kahori dusted Killmonger.
Took Killmonger right out of his suit.
Out of the suit.
So, like we got to see a total not even a total demonstration, but a huge demonstration of her powers.
Yeah.
And like we did get to like she can be destroyed. Like Sorcerer Supreme was going to kill her. So she does have a limit. For sure. And that was something we were questioning before, is we were like, like what are her limits? So we know that they exist. And we've gotten to see her do some different things.
I prematurely answered this on our group chat saying that David's question has been answered about if she is, an Omega-3 herself, where we were talking in the last episode where it's like
Omega level,
all that. And I prematurely sent that. I was like, dude, there's the answer. when I saw her like Dust Killmonger, and I was like, and then the end of the episode came, and I was like, well, I should probably retcon that response because she's not quite there. She's tiptoeing on that finish line, but she's not quite there. But I was like, well, she's still. Me personally though, I almost wish she wasn't Captain Carter's wingman. Like I almost wish that they used someone else and let that just marinate some more. Because I think we touched on it on the Kahori episode. I think it was I wasn't trying to see her so soon again, and this one coming so soon, not having a whole lot of her dialect, and then going from being somebody that's really new to their power to now being the second in command in the multiverse chamber of suites. I felt like that was too fast. Like, what?
Definitely. I agree.
I 1,000% agree. Yes.
For her, I mean, they that's why I say I don't want to say they ruined her because I don't think you can. She's a really solid character. But I think they knew something that was working and they used it. And I don't think they should have.
It, yeah.
It would have been really cool.
They defiled it a little bit.
It would have been really interesting to see, something they're after, a new character we haven't seen that Supreme Leader Strange cannot grab. And it would have been really cool to kind of really tie a nice love bow on this if a variation of Steve Rogers was Captain Carter's wingman. That would have been very interesting. Some Marvel Jack and Rose kind of send off. That would have been interesting. And then we get some new character that Supreme Leader Strange cannot capture. And that's why he needs those two. That would have been interesting.
So
I would have rather have seen Bucky because there's not a timeline, because they both survived at the end. There's not a timeline where they can survive together. So, if you're going with Steve Rogers, he's going to have to die in that episode again anyways. Well, we saw Kahori's 5. I would rather see Bucky, an iteration of Bucky, if I was going to see anybody from...
or even like a Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel. That would have been interesting to see.
I was just thinking the X-Men. I would have loved to see one of the X-Men.
Professor X standing?
We got... Oh, God. No, don't do that. That's...
I'm sorry.
So I have to say there's a couple things that I wasn't sure of which direction they're going to go. And some things like what Lou hinted on, kind of playing second fiddle to Captain Carter. And it kind of went back and forth. At first, I literally thought it was going to be kind of like that Black Panther when he got introduced to in Civil War. Him and Cap didn't second fiddle each other. They both were in their own right, leading their own mission, their own purpose. They weren't playing that way. Even though they played well in that movie, they both were I guess alpha is the best way to kind of put that if I'm trying to explain it. Seeing Kahori and Captain Carter dynamic, there were some remnants of that, and then there was pieces where it was Captain Carter leading the show and stuff. And I get that Kahori's new, she's a newer character, and versus Captain Carter's more established. But in her world, she is literally the lead. I mean, she is the supreme being in her timeline, in her world that is going. I mean, she literally, like Dr. Strange says, damn, you got world peace in 15 minutes because that was the time. The biggest empire in the world was the Spanish Empire conquering everything on the planet, and she just managed to just take out the head of the snake. So she's not used to playing. That's not her role. She doesn't play second fiddle. But so they were kind of going back and forth with that dynamic. I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't have the rewrite on what that should have looked like, but that's what we got. So I accepted that. What I thought was going to happen, though, I'm glad it did it. Well, I don't know if I'm glad I did it because you could have done it really smoothly and organically that we're going to have another Women Avenger team up. When they kept flashing back to Hela and those two fighting Sorcerer Supreme, I'm like, are they about to do an Avenger team link up? We're about to pull Hela in, and then I'm assuming we're going to get Captain Carter, and these women are going to beat the brakes off of Doctor Strange. I would actually been for that. They could have wrote that.
And really honestly, Hela was the first. Hela was the first one to throw her weapon up to them and be like, Take care of it, girls.
Yep.
And then everyone followed suit. They got the 10 rings. It was the Allfather, right? They had Mjolnir. They had Hela's helmet. What else do they have?
I think that's it. Just those.
I think that was it.
The 10 rings, Thor's, Mjolnir, and the helmet and Hela's. Yeah.
And the Allfather.
I love that scene, but I hated the back and I think they drew it out just a little too long. The back and forth. I was like, okay, this is a bit extensive. Like changing the colors. Like I loved the sacrifice of like each person they pride possession to like help them. It would have been really cool to see them like really throw like if it was like Super Smash Brothers and they're just throwing out a bunch of stuff from like Cap's shield, from a certain timeline, Bucky's arm. I mean, it would have been cool. It would like there would be so many cool options, but I think that scene where it was up and down was just too long. I was like, you could have just once, twice done, but it seemed like divorced parents fighting over children. And I was like, this is annoying. Can we just cut it a little sooner?
I don't disagree. So we end up seeing that he sacrifices himself into the forge. Mm-hmm. He is falling down after the battle with Captain Carter, and he kind of stops his attachments.
Demon
attachment fight back with her and just lets himself fall into the forge, which all right, okay. I mean, if it was going to end, that's how it had to that it was going to end, because that battle was just going to go on forever and ever and ever. So thank you for self-sacrificing so we can get to the end of this episode.
Yeah,
because his grief was never going to leave him, and with the power that he has and not controlling his grief, he's just going to continue to be a monster. So he had to go. Peace out, Sorcerer Supreme. Hopefully you're gone for good, because I don't want to see you again because you annoy me. But I'm just telling the truth. Mm-hmm. Then we do get the Watcher at the end telling Captain Carter they didn't need me. They needed you. And so now he's kind of letting her do her thing and like, hey, there are, other things that need to be taken care of.
He admitted that she is his cheat code. I can go back to being the Watcher and not interfering because we have you.
Yep.
You can go interfere for me.
And then he's like, are you ready to go back to your timeline? And he's like, I have some other things, you could take care of if you want to. And she's like, no, I'm ready to get back to my timeline. So he's like, oh, well, she's like, we could take the scenic route though. So he's got some things to show her. They're going to take their time getting her back to her timeline. I don't think she's ready just yet. She still has some things she wants to play in the multiverse. And honestly, like her integrity is, she makes it work. And she doesn't give up. So I like Captain Carter as his cheat code. I like it.
And he introduced her to the sacred timeline in the multiverse that's all being held together by our hero, Mr. Loki, sitting on his throne. So that we got to see the tree of life, and that's holding together all of the timelines and everything else. So I thought that was a lovely ending of bringing Captain Carter to Loki in that way of showing her, look at this. This is what's going on right now. The sacred timeline and all the other timelines are being held together by Loki. And for me, I think that's going to open up season 3 of What If, and also kind of help inform kind of how like season 1 kind of informed Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. I think this is going to
inform a movie.
Yeah, some movie stuff and possibly Battle World, and possibly, I mean, we saw a glimpse of what Battle World could look like in that episode and stuff.
Oh my gosh,
it's a bit much.
It is a bit much.
So be careful what you ask for. I mean, we want to see all of our heroes and villains on the screen fighting. We think it's cool because it was that way in the comic books. But damn, watching that unfold, it was like Sam said, it activates some ADHD level in your, like, you're all over the place and stuff.
You're like a ping pong ball.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Is that Thor fighting?
I don't even know where to look.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even enjoy the scenes because I couldn't decide where to focus. Because there was just so much going on. And I was like, wait, what is happening here? There's way too much. But I mean, they made it look amazing. I like having central points to focus on, and I was not able to do that.
I agree.
So I got 2 questions. One,
yes, sir.
overall season ranking, what do you give it?
I give it a 9 overall. I had a lot more fun this season than I did in the first was I knew about the What If comics and what they're going to do. All I had expectation wise for this season compared to previous season was to be better and to give me, not everything has to be perfect, but give me better stories. And they did that. I think they did that really great. And we got that new character sealed it for me and stuff. So the Captain Carter mid-season episode that I ranked really low took me out. Otherwise, I would have given it a 10. Way better all around the board. Better stories, a brand new character introduced, all that. But it's a solid 9 for me.
I would go like 8.5. The storytelling for this season was so much better, and it was like creative storytelling. And I like the way that things came back together, which is something that we weren't used to with What If. Definitely loved the introduction of Kahori. I loved getting to see Sorcerer Supreme be done because I'm done with him. I loved getting to see Wanda or the Scarlet Witch actually in a good role. In a good role, because that's not a way that she's commonly portrayed. So it gave me little things that were refreshing to see. But I think overall that just the storytelling this episode and the fact that they didn't try to keep it too comic book accurate is actually what worked for me. They took themselves out of those constraints and were able to play a little bit more and bring us like a more cohesive story, even though they're playing with the multiverse. Because it's hard to find cohesiveness in the multiverse. It's just it's a hard thing to write. But I think their writers did a much better job this season. About you, Lou Knight.
I'm at an 8. I'm at an 8. I really enjoyed it. More than season 1. I like that it has now almost a storyline to it, except it kind of goes against the What If. I mean, I know the way you guys are sharing about comics, it's accurate, but I feel like the What If episodes were fun because it was something new every time. But I hope that if they're going to go with this, like Captain Carter bouncing around timelines and us giving us a bunch of fan candy, then cool. Let's nail it in the first season and let's roll it out. But for me, it's an 8.
I like it. So that's it. We're done recapping. We do have a little bit of a teaser to go on for what's to come for the next episode of Marvel Tribe. Lou, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so our next episode of Marvel Tribe will be taking our lowest ranked Marvel episode and rewriting it to what we would have wanted to see on the screen. Now, the storyline of it still stays the same. We can't sit there and be like, well, we don't like the Christmas episode, but guess what Moon Knight was doing this day? Like, no, we can't completely just go to a different story. We take the root of what the story is, the title of the story, and we salt and pepper it up to make it from regular top ramen to chow mein. We really doctor it up to make it work. So we're taking our lowest ranked episode. So for me, I have a tie between the Christmas episode and the episode right after that. I forget the title of it. So I have a tie, both of those that are 6 for me. So
my lowest is the Christmas episode.
Man, you got me hungry now. Sorry.
Dude,
Louis,
you can't
Louis
go wrong with
pulled out a
noodles.
cup of noodles. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Oh, that one. No. Oh, what if Iron Man crashed into the?
Yeah, with Sakaar.
Crashed into the Grandmaster.
Yeah. So I have those 2 episodes to choose from. If Christmas one's for you, then I will go the Grandmaster episode because obviously that way we have some contrast there.
All right,
David. What was? Oh, never mind. I know which one was yours.
We know.
Yeah,
Peggy Carter.
4.
What's that?
Peggy Carter fighting the Hydra Stomper.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so
And
you're
then-
going to see me rewrite the
Christmas episode.
the Christmas episode where we get the introduction of Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
Then you're going to see
Hulk
Lou rewrite
When Iron Man meets the Grandmaster.
the racing one, and then David is going to do the baby killer episode.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on top of that, we're going to bring 5 what if topics that we would have liked to see them bring into the show. So this is going to challenge you two from stepping out of the comics and bringing what if episodes based off the MCU. What are some what if questions you would have asked, and your top 5 that you would have came up with, and we'll share those as well. We don't have to build episodes out of them, but just headliners. Like what if?
What
this
would we
happened?
want to see?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's it. That's all we have for the Marvel Tribe. Happy New Year's, everyone. We are going to do that episode as a live episode. Do we want to give it a full week?
Yes.
Let's pull up the calendars. What if we record that on January 8th, a Monday? We good on Monday night? A Monday night live show? You guys do Undisputed. Hang on.
I'm looking at that schedule, though. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Back in business stuff over here.
What if we record it?
Oh my gosh, I loved when she was kind of sassing the watcher a little bit. She's like, "What if? What if? What if?" It's always what if with you.
It's always what if.
I was like, nice plug there.
So technically tomorrow should be extra magic hours Monday. Oh, yes. Let's pick a date after we get off the air, so we're not game planning while we're recording.
Yeah, absolutely. Fans don't care about that.
I was trying to give our fans a date to listen back to, but we will
follow us on all our social medias to find out more.
Yeah, follow us on all of our social medias. Check out our Patreon if you haven't. Find us everywhere you can find pretty much everything. So, except for Costco. We're not at Costco yet. Maybe someday. They'll have some Walt's Apartment merch. All right, so this is the Marvel Tribe. Feel the pulse in your chest so you know you're alive. One team, one love.
It's the Marvel Tribe.